Welcome to Up on the Bars discussion with your host, Roy Bain.
We're live here on a Tuesday night with Gary Thomas, the voice of multiple of the upper tier sprint car series on the West Coast. We're here to talk about the kind of the wind down of the season, I would say right now, but definitely not the end of the season. But there's a big race. Tony Nassetti from the Nassetti Group reached out to both of us earlier in this week to get on here and talk about what he's got going on this weekend because, well, it's one of a kind deal. We haven't seen anything like this so far. Have you seen this happen before, Gary?
No, I mean, in California, I think it's the first time we've ever had a Triple Crown championship where, the three of the premier traveling series in the Golden State all crown their champions. Same track, same night, same place. We've done it the last several years with the Sprint Car Challenge Tour and the NARC 410s, but this year adding in the Joe Hunt Wingless Series is going to be exciting. So now we have a true Triple Crown.
Yeah, I know normally he's just a 2-day show. In talking with Tony, he wanted to do away with the Friday show. He seems to not have the big attendance on Friday night that he wants for the whatever. So he said, we're going to do this all in one show. This is the tribute to Gary Patterson, first of all. And I believe that's the 410s, correct?
Yeah, so basically the tribute to GP is kind of the overall event. But, the 410s are the headliner with the NARC Fujitsu series. And then, like I said, we have the SCC T360s and then the Joe Hunt Magneto's Wingless Tour. Yeah,
so, and I know you've been getting anywhere from 30 to 40 when the 410s show up, 30 to 40 when the SCCT shows up, 25 or 30 of the Wingless. So you're looking at possibly 120, 130 sprint cars in the pits at Stockton Dirt Track this weekend. How epic would that be?
Oh, that'd be a great thing. This late in the year, you just never know with teams that are kind of, wearing out their stuff. But no matter what, we're going to have the best in the business when it comes to West Coast sprint car racing on hand at the San Joaquin County Fairgrounds. Like I say, the officials are going to do a great job. We're going to try and move this show along as quickly as possible. We know it's going to get chilly at night, but we invite everyone to come out and have a great night at the races. Yeah,
speaking of chilly in Oregon, it's snowing today. We woke up to snow this morning, so it's already kicking off early up here. Good gosh. But I know I've been down there for the 410 360 shows the last couple of years, and there's always a good amount of cars. We were there last year with Richard Brace, and that's the closest I've been to a sprint car in my entire life, and we helped him pit his 410 down there. I didn't even know how to put a tire on it. I learned how to do that. I mean, that's how ignorant I am towards the sprint cars. So tell us who you're looking at this. Well, we'll start with the 410 series. You've been at a lot of their shows this year. Where are the point standings? How are things going with the sprint cars this year? And who's to look for that you think Saturday night with the 410s?
Well, yeah, on the 410 side of it, with the NARC King of the West series, Dominic Scelzi essentially has the title wrapped up. I think he just has to qualify to wrap up his second state title. He's got 4 wins going into it. I know he'd love nothing more than to cap off the season with a victory at Stockton to kind of put an exclamation mark on his second straight championship. But you got guys like Bud Kading, and Tim Kading is back with Roth Motorsports. He's won the tribute to Gary Patterson a few times in his career in the Roth cars, so that should be exciting. Willie Croft is going into the night second in points, so he wants to end the season on a positive note as well. Should be a great night of racing. Like I say, these 900 horsepower wing sprint cars, there's no track faster in California than Stockton, so it should be a joy to watch.
Well, and I know Tony that track gets a little rough and all that stuff. And I know Tony, I talked with him earlier this weekend. We went and had breakfast with him Sunday down there in Stockton. He's putting a lot of extra track prep into it. I think he's brought Scott Russell in to help a little bit with the track prep this week, getting things done. The track the last couple of times we've been there has been really smooth. They've got the one where it's working really well, and it's made for some great racing to what we've seen. The last time the sprint cars were there, they were hauling the mail. That's all I can tell you. They were just flat hauling the mail.
So. Yeah, it's a tough track sometimes because we don't use it a lot, and it's obviously windy down in Stockton, so you're kind of got a couple different variables to mess with it. But Yeah, the last couple of times we've been there with the Sprint Car Challenge Tour have been really good. The first race, especially, I think that was about as good as we've seen at Stockton in years. And Scott Russell came down and helped him out. Just talked to Tony about 20 minutes ago, and he was out there kind of messing around with the track today. Had a little bit of rain, but not too much. He's going to go back out there tomorrow and kind of till it up a little bit, and then just the rest of the week kind of keep applying water and see what we have come Saturday.
Right, and so now you're going to go. We're going to drop down and we're going to talk about the SCCT series. How are the point standings with the SCCT, and who to look for in that group?
Yeah, so on the SCCT side of things, Andy Forsberg is leading Tony Gomes by 36 points, which is about 18 positions in the main event. So that there's definitely a chance that the title could change hands, but we'll see what happens. If Andy can win this championship, it'll be his 26th of his career in California. So that would be another feather in his cap, and the first Sprint Car Challenge Tour championship for him as well after winning. He won 10 times at the Civil War Series, essentially, which is what SCCT is now.
Okay. Well, and see, I don't know the sprint car. That's why we wanted to have you on here, because I'd be talking like I don't know any of mine. I've watched Andy Forsberg's got his little thing that he's doing shark tails or whatever in the pits. I think it's just sitting around drinking beer after the end of the night. Whatever comes up, comes up. I've caught bits and pieces of it, and I think that's kind of cool. Now I'm going to ask you about the Hunt series, because I know nothing about them other than their wingless sprint cars. I like watching the wingless sprint cars personally. They don't seem to have as much control as the wing sprint cars. There's all kinds of action that goes on with those. How are they stacked up in points, and where have they ran this year so far?
Yeah, it's been a very successful year for the Joe Hunt Magneto's wingless series. They've averaged right around 30 cars a show. We always get great support at Stockton. Going into this last point race, Jake Morgan leads, looking for another championship. He's been a dominant force, but it's a fun series to watch. Of course, Gary Patterson was, I guess, more known for his non-wing sprint car accolades. So having that non-wing portion at the Gary Patterson race is always a cool thing to have. And like I said, that's going to be the third part of the Triple Crown.
Well, and I always like when they bring Gary's car up and set it up in front of the grandstands. It's cool going to see the old style sprint car there. They bring it on the blue and white hauler. I'm sure they'll have it again there this year. That's always something that I think is cool to see, number one, when you go there in person, to get to see the old style vintage cars.
Yeah, so that car was owned by Walt Ross, and now his daughter and her husband own it. And it's actually back in Knoxville, Iowa at the Hall of Fame, because Walt just went in the Hall of Fame this past June. But I talked to Sheila a few days ago, and they're going to bring out their secondary car, which is pretty much, it's kind of like a clone of that 56 car. But so yeah, they're supposed to have it there. Jimmy Patterson's going to have Gary Patterson shirts on sale. They look great. Randy Frank did an awesome job this year. So there's, a few special things going on for the GP race.
Right. And Tony always tries to bring some of the older people around. I don't know. I haven't talked to Tony about this weekend. He usually has a booth set up with drivers of the past where you can get autographs, all that stuff. It does a ton with to try to bring fans in and give you a interactive experience when you go to the track there at the dirt track. Did he tell you anything of his plans outside of just the racing?
Yeah. Tony does a great job. He's probably one of the best promoters on the West Coast when it comes to just adding different things to do. So from 1 to 3, we're going to have live music and a little car show and shine, I think is what Wild Wayne calls it. So they're going to kind of get some classic cars out there, some race cars, along with the live music for 2 hours. After that, the gates open up, and then we have our pit meeting 30 minutes after that. So it'll be a full day of festivities. And like we said, we're just going to try and get that program through as quickly as we can to get everyone on the road at a decent hour.
Well, and I can tell you from having promoted, because the Tri-State runs at Stockton, Tony is a guy that believes in the promoting mentality of, we start the show at 6. We want to be done by 9 or 9:30. Yeah. 3 hours in and out. Doesn't matter if you've got 100 cars or 150 cars. When the first green flag drops on hot laps and the last checkered flag flies at the end of the night, there's no break in the action other than maybe 5 to 10 minutes just for some track prep, fixing a hole, whatever in there and all that. So it's nonstop action from the time you get to the Stockton Dirt Track.
Yeah, I mean, downtime is one of the worst things you can have in racing. I know that in years past, we've had some, moments of track prep, and people joke about, you're just trying to sell more beer or anything. But we want to have the best track possible as well. So that's really the only downtime we have, is maybe a little bit of track prep. The way that Tony's working the track this week, though, I'm thinking we're not going to have as much. So it should be a good streamlined program. We got some of the best officials in the business when it comes to the NARC series, the SCCT series, all coming together. So you got great people working the pits, great people working the scoring and everything. So it's always a positive deal.
What's up, Mark Garner? How you doing tonight? Mark Garner, sport mod driver out of Antioch. So joining in, saying hey. But no, I've got to work with Tony quite a bit this year with 99 and the dirt track side and get an insight to what he's doing. You won't see Tony all night long till probably the last main events over there. He'll come to the pits. The rest of the night, he's either in a water truck, on the tractor, or serving beer, you name it. He's got his hands in something all the time at the track. So, but he is an awesome guy to sit and talk to you. Now, where all have you been this year with the sprint car series? Where all have you made it to this summer?
Yeah, so my number one job title is announcer and PR director at Placerville Speedway. So I do all those events, and then I'm also the same with the Sprint Car Challenge Tour. So that right there gives me about 30 or 34 shows a year to work. So I'm pretty busy with all that. Then I've gone down to Ocean a few times, going to Antioch next week for the Sprint Car Show, and then looking like Merced here at the end of the month. So it's pretty much been all around, but it's been a long season. We started way back, I think it was, February 5th when I was with you guys at Stockton, and we're coming to the last month of the season. It's been fun.
Well, you talked about Dominic Scelzi earlier. I saw you when we were in Watsonville, and Dominic Scelzi put on a kind of a dominating performance at Watsonville. He's been on fire this year, and if you've had a chance, if you don't know Dominic Scelzi, find him on Facebook. Just Google the name. I guarantee you there's some funny clips on him. He is probably one of the funniest people that you've ever dealt with in the pits. That's my personal opinion. I've talked with him. He's a fun guy. Shane Golobic, I'm sure, will be there. Shane's another one that's had a really, really strong year so far. What about Justin Cox? Is he going to be in anything out there this weekend? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure about Justin Cox. I know he's been driving the 42X car. I haven't got confirmation yet if he's going to be back in it. But you just mentioned Shane Golobic, who I, of course, forgot to mention. He's been the hottest driver the last 2 months out here, winning the Trophy Cup, and he won a NARC race at Kern last week, and he's doing double duty. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wins both ends of it the way that he's been running. Yeah,
and I noticed they started calling him Sugar Shane Golobic. Really nice guy in the pits. I believe Richard Brace is bringing his 410 out this weekend, is my understanding.
Oh, nice.
So
cool.
He was excited last year. They did a lot of work, and he finally got it working in the main. And if it wasn't for bad luck for him, there's no luck. Brand new right rear tire, and it just exploded about 5 laps into the main event, and he flipped. And he said he was so excited. He's like, I'm not even upset that I flipped. He said I was actually passing cars. I hadn't been able to do that in a long time. They did a lot of work on the car, getting it dialed in. Lyle kind of helped him a little bit with setup and doing some things, and he was all excited. But just watching that brand new right rear tire explode, it was like, man, that's heartbreak.
That's like gold right there.
Yeah. Well, I know it was brand new because I went and picked it up from Kading right there out of the trailer and took it to him and helped him put it on. That's what I said. I learned how to change a tire, but I think he had problems with his bleeders is what caused I would like to say it's Hoosier's fault, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know they had bleeders on their tires till they were explaining it to me. So see, there you go.
Richard, man, he's a great guy. We got to know him back when he was running the King of the West series, which is now the NARC series, several years ago. And so whenever we get to see him in the pro stock, my brother and my family, we're all excited that we actually get to see Richard, because he's just one of those good down to earth guys, one of those characters, that we don't have as much of anymore. So yeah, we hope that'd be cool to see him in the 410 again.
Yeah, and he's never, if you get a chance to talk to him, guys, if you're listening and you get a chance, go talk to him. You will never hear him say a bad word about nothing. I remember when he won over at Petaluma in the pro stock, Rick Faith said, probably one of the worst 410 sprint car drivers out there, but probably one of the best pro stock drivers. And he said, I wish I had 50 other people like him. He said, just one of those people that you talk to him, and I guarantee you he'll be in a better mood when you leave talking to him. If you don't, something's wrong, because he just one of the most positive people in the sport. So we talk about some of the other drivers. Is there something else going on in the U.S. that will be taking people away from out here or anything?
Yeah, I mean, the World of Outlaws have their final point race of the year, and I think the only one that's going back there that would have ran Stockton is Rico Abreu, so that's not really going to have much of an effect. The Oval Nationals are down in Paris, but that's a different kind of beast. So it actually is a pretty loaded weekend when you think you got Stockton, you got the World Finals back in Charlotte, and then the Oval Nationals down in Paris.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. There's so much going on in the sprint car community, and I'm going to put you on the hot seat right now while we're talking about it, because Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson started a new series. I don't know how they've been doing with it. I hadn't been paying attention to it. What little news I get comes from listening in on Chaz's stuff.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to compare with the Outlaws when you're talking about sprint cars in general?
Well, I think it's exciting, and I hope the Outlaws embrace it and don't try to fight it or anything, because I think it seems like what their business model is to run some midweek shows when the Outlaws normally aren't running. And at least the first two events they went to this year were at tracks that don't really have major World of Outlaw 410 shows. So it really, in my opinion, doesn't really affect what they're doing. I think that if they embrace it, everything can be better, but you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you hear rumors and stuff, and I'm sure it's going to be an interesting off season to say the least.
Okay. Yeah. I just asking about that because I know I didn't know this. I didn't know that you had to sign a contract with the World of Outlaws that you wouldn't go race other series and you wouldn't. I didn't know that existed because I've seen Brad Sweet run the races at Stockton and things like that. So I didn't know how that affects things. And like I said, I met Brad at the first time there at Stockton when he was there. And I didn't know there was that many different sprint car series around the U.S., believe it or not. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how much racing there are, and you see new series popping up all the time. And I don't know the ins and outs of it anymore about what you can run and what you can't run, but I believe there's no stipulation when it comes to the World of Outlaws late model side. Like those drivers can go race whatever, and I could be completely wrong on that, but that's what my understanding was, that they could run wherever. So, Not sure why the sprint cars are still being so selective. I mean, I can kind of see. You want to protect your brand. If you want to see Brad Sweet or Donnie Schatz, you got to go to an Outlaw show. And I understand that part of the thing, but guys are still out there trying to make a living.
Well, and that's why I didn't know that, because the one times that I did see them, the names that you mentioned, Brad Sweet and Donnie Schatz, were in the pits at Stockton Dirt Track. I don't know if it was an Outlaw event or I think it was just the end of the year race like this. So it was kind of odd. And I know Kyle Larson's been out here and ran a couple of races. That's why I wanted to talk with you and figure out how all the sprint car works, because I haven't paid any attention to the sprint cars. So
no worries. I mean, it always works out in the end, no matter what, with series and people doing this and that. I just hope it's a great season coming up, and hope the schedules work out really well, and hopefully everything at Stockton, goes great this weekend, and we can get some good shows there next year again as well.
Yeah, and everybody, if you're watching this, reach down and hit the share button, because we want as many people to know that they're running this big show at Stockton Dirt Track this Saturday night. So reach down and hit the share button. Gary, were you at Trophy Cup?
Yeah, I was there at Trophy Cup. I do all the PR work for Thunderbolt Raceway, and then I do the infield announcing there at Trophy Cup. So I pretty much have it easy there.
Well, what did you think of Tanner Holmes' performance down there? I heard he did really well down there.
He did a great job. He probably should have won the Friday prelim, only to have a bad, a car come to a stop and the yellow came out, which was the right call. And then he got passed by a two-time All-Star champ on the restart. But just Tanner finishing on the podium at Trophy Cup, I thought was really impressive. I was hoping we'd see him down at Stockton, but I think he's done with his sprint car stuff for the year. He was saying he's now going to the outlaw kart side of things.
Right. Yeah. Seeing that I met him through Southern Oregon Speedway, which we do up here too. So I know them. They just live really right over the hill. Great people to talk to, visit with. Dylan Bloomfield. Who are some of the young guys that you're watching come up? Because I'm telling you right now, Tanner Holmes, I think Dylan Bloomfield is coming up. I think Carly Holmes, Tanner's sister, is going to turn a lot of heads. And I say this all the time, and if I offend him, I don't mean to. I think she's a better driver than Tanner's. It's my honest opinion. She had a rough start at Cottage Grove this year. It's been out most of the season, but she should be back next year. She is very talented behind the wheel. And if you watch her, she is very, very smooth. Who are some others that you see out there that are young drivers coming up that are starting to make way in all this?
Yeah, every time I talk about this, I always forget one, so I apologize if I don't mention somebody's name. But obviously Corey Day down here is number one. He's insanely talented. I mean, he's already one of the best drivers, if not the best driver in California when it comes to wing sprint car racing. He'll be gone pretty soon. He's back at the World Finals watching with his father this week, so we're not going to have him in Stockton. But another young kid, Ryan Timms, that's been making a lot of headway across the country. He'll be in Stockton this week, and he's only 16. He ran Stockton last year, but, man, he's just – some of these kids are so talented. It's unbelievable. They get right into a sprint car, and they just make them go.
Yeah. Well, and
Dylan Bloomfield, you mentioned, too. Dylan's doing a great job, 410, 360 as well.
Well, and he went back and ran the Chili Bowl this year. I was excited for that because I had him on my show earlier before that. And just his family is super nice in the pits. Can't talk about them enough. But did you happen to – this is something that I think is really cool when you see all these people. They go from go-karts right into a sprint car or a micro or right up that chain, and they don't do any of the other style of driving. And we talk a lot about the fender cars on here. Mm-hmm. Tanner went down and one of the new tracks is opening up on one of their test and tunes, drove a dwarf car. I don't know if you got a chance to see that.
Okay.
So excited when he got out of that dwarf car. And honest to God, any of these drivers that hadn't got to drive it, I think if you'd put them in a mini stock, they're tickled to death to go drive something different. It's a whole lot less stressful. I know that. And they seem to have a ball in it. So, but yeah, I wish I could make it this Saturday to Stockton to see all this stuff, but we got to tell everybody, you got live band, you got a car show, and then you got 3 of the top West Coast sprint car series on tap. You've got the, I'm assuming NARC 410 sprint cars, the Elk Grove Ford SCCT series, and then the Hunt Magneto Wingless series, all in one night at Stockton Dirt Track. If you're not satisfied with that much racing at the end of the night at Stockton, ain't nobody can help you, because I guarantee you're going to see a ton of sprint car racing at Stockton Dirt Track this weekend. And I know Mark Ternosky, you can see him. We got him up here at MTF.
Oh, he'll be there, I'm sure.
I think I heard him saying he's going to bring his slot car tracks down there. If you got kids, go check out his slot cars. He has a ball with the slot cars down underneath there. Just a phenomenal weekend of racing going on over there. Like I said, got to give Marky T a shout out there. So, but anyway, all right. Well, thank you, Gary, for going on here, and everybody. Stockton Dirt Track Saturday, the Gary Patterson tribute to Gary Patterson race going on. The Triple Crown crowning 3 West Coast sprint car champions, all in one night. This is, I guarantee you, it's the best card in town. So. Anything you want to add to it there, Gary?
Yeah, no, I think you talked about it earlier. We used to do the 2-day show here, and the Friday show just got to be too much. So we decided just to go one day, buy your ticket. You don't have to buy a hotel. Come on down. Stockton is one of the most central tracks in California. And if you're a wing sprint car fan or a motorsports fan, there's not a lot of racing left this year. So we hope to see you at Stockton this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. So thank you. And thanks, Tony, for yelling at us to get out here and promote this for you. So we're here for you.
Appreciate it.
Yep. So hang tight here, Gary.